Yeah, well, the Vuelta a Catalunya is happening. We've got big names in there. Remco Evenepoel, Primoz Roglic. We've kind of spoken about them, Remco and Roglic in separate videos. But Egan Bernal is also down on the start line. This was actually Patrick who wanted to talk about that. Egan Bernal, yeah, what's his future? We don't know how he's going to do in this race. Well, we know he's still coming well, still on the comeback trail from that awful crash in Colombia last year. Was at the San Juan. Yeah, what do you guys think? What should Ineos do with Egan Bernal? He's one of the highest earners on the team, if not the highest earner.
I think it's still just a little too early to make a final judgment. But the reason why I wanted to talk about this is because, of course, he crashed just over a year ago, and it was a serious crash. But of course, he's down provisionally to do the Tour de France this year. I think that's correct. It's just a thing of what are Ineos going to do if Bernal doesn't perform this year? Because they're going to be in a sticky situation where this is a person who they've invested a lot into. And if he doesn't perform this year, they think, oh my, he's just kind of taking up the payroll, which sounds really harsh, but it is in this kind of in the sporting world, you need to deploy your wages so that you can try and win things. That's kind of the purpose. And it's like if Bernal doesn't start performing, are they going to get rid of him? Are they going to be sympathetic and keep him on? Because I just kind of see this heading towards when Froome crashed. And then it was always going to make a comeback, and then he never did. Is it going to be the same with Bernal? He's had a crash, and it's like, oh, he's going to come back. But the signs haven't been that great so far, and I'm hoping that this Volta Catalunya, starting tomorrow, because we're recording on a Sunday, will hopefully we'll see some good signs from him.
Yeah, I'd also quite like to see Bernal come back. He brings something different to Pogacar and Vingegaard, which would be interesting to see them all fight at full force. It's just felt like there's been a lot of question marks. Yes, he won the Tour de France in 2019, before the big paradigm shift of cycling over the COVID break. Post that, yes, he's won the Giro, but then there was that 2020 Tour de France. We had back problems that plagued the second week, and he cracked completely on the Grand Colombier and lost heaps of time, pulled out of the race eventually. Then that back problem ruled him out for the rest of the season. He came back to the Giro and then didn't really hit the ground running at the Vuelta after a crash in the Vuelta a Burgos, I believe, in 2021. Then in 2022 had that big crash. Yes, that ruled him out, rightly so, for the season. Came back very slowly, and now he's got a knee problem, which takes him into the season and has delayed his start. I hate to say someone's injury prone, but it seems like he has been. I mean, he can't help it, I don't think. But
Yeah,
it just seems like bad luck is like he's absorbing it all. He needs to be wrapped up in bubble wrap and
yeah.
sort of protected at all costs because it seems like
That was that
he's getting
meme.
involved in so many incidents and crashes and injuries. Wasn't there a diagnosis in 2020 of scoliosis?
What's that? Oh
Or am I making
dear,
this
this guy
up?
can't catch a break, can he?
Sorry, he's got
Yeah.
scoliosis. It was confirmed in 2020. How can he be a pro
Oh
cyclist
my
at the top level with
goodness.
scoliosis?
Poor guy.
They're like crunched up on a bike all day. Surely that hurts your
Yeah.
spine.
But I kind of draw a comparison also when Jakobsen, of course, had that horrid crash in the Tour of Poland.
Oh yeah.
You have to also perhaps draw a comparison to that. And Jakobsen is, last year won a Tour de France stage, and he's come back to full force since that crash. Yeah, Remco as well, a Lombardia. That took Remco kind of like more than a year-ish to really kind of fully recover from that. So yeah, I think that Bernal is certainly not done with, but I think that hopefully end of this year, I'd like to see something. I think realistically that would be about right. End of this year, maybe mid this year at the tour, we might see some good signs. And then, maybe it might be next year that we really see full flight Bernal. But I'd love to see him, because we saw him win Tour de France 2019 and we haven't seen him go up against Pogacar and Vingegaard. Like, it would be great to see Ineos with their kind of poster boy from a few years back, see what he can do, see how he matches up against them.
They literally are missing that big head of
Uh,
state or however you want to say it. But yeah, 2026, that is a long contract.
So many of these guys are now on long contracts. We're in a period now where long contracts are the norm for big riders. Pogacar is contracted for a long time. Ayuso, Almeida.
where is Ayuso? What's he doing?
Ayuso's been injured for a while, but I
Okay,
think he's
fair.
coming back at the Basque Country. But
I
all
got
these guys, even Vingegaard, Wout, Roglic was. We'll see about that. All on a very, very long contract. I think it's just normal that Bernal was signed for that long. They have belief in him. Being on that money for a long time, maybe it wasn't the right financial investment, but they believed in him. When he's good, he offers up a lot. He's won 2 Grand Tours at this point. Been up there in Strade Bianche. He's done well in stage races. He won Paris.
The potential's there. That's the point.
Yeah, yeah. But with all these accidents, maybe every now and then we get sort of a great Egan Bernal moment, but it's not quite as sustained as Pogacar.
We're talking about that they desperately want to get back to the top step, very similar to Mercedes in Formula One, which is quite funny because they're both Ineos sponsored. But yeah, Danny Martinez, we've spoken about him. They got rid of Adam Yates. Sivakov has the potential, but now there's younger guns coming. Yeah, well,
Sivakov
under
said
20.
in the French press the other week that he's taking longer to mature into a leader than he thought he would.
So by what, age 40, we'll see him doing good? Like, what?
Exactly.
When's it going to be, Pavel?
Tom Pidcock, we've spoken about that as well. Him winning the Tour de France is like a wet dream for many British fans.
All downhill tour.
I mean,
Limited TT.
he's
Not a lack of mountaintop finishes. And
Yorkshireman criticizing a Yorkshire rider, the Yorkshire rider.
Yeah, I'm just saying. Ever since he just that crash at Tirreno, it shook me.
But like, do they have to look elsewhere for Egan and wait, give him that time, and then have some temporary solution?
Yeah.
Roglic was floating about last year, which was funny. I mean, that would be quite an interesting move, but I doubt that'll happen.
Just one injury, like crash-prone rider for another, basically. It's just Roglic has about 3 get-downs a year. I looked at him. I was making a thumbnail earlier, right? And I was looking for images of Roglic. Looked it up on Google, Primož Roglic. About half the images are just some kind of battle-worn Roglic with some kind of scar on him. I'm like, oh, for goodness sake, this is... Well, I don't want this.
It's part of the story. It's part of the narrative.
It is. He's wrapping up.
He does. He does.
Do you think it's this year we get Egan Bernal back, or is it next year or the year after, or will we never get him back, like
Never.
you said with Froome?
I don't know. Next year. I think next year.
Because like with Froome, he has the best, like Ineos have the best staff, like probably in the whole sport. Well, maybe Jumbo Visma.
I would disagree. Jumbo Visma do.
Yeah, okay, but
I
like
think the problem is that Ineos, since this big paradigm shift, are struggling to keep up with other teams. Where Ineos going to do where Jumbo Visma are doing different things. Ineos is still kind of riding a little bit like it's the 2010s. It doesn't quite work out. They've adapted a little bit, but they've been mugged a number of times, really. Last year's Giro d'Italia, prime example. Bora rode like a 2020s team, and Ineos rode the whole time like a 2010 squad, and they got mugged on the final stage by Bora. And I mean, it will take a lot. I think Bernal looks more like a rider from the pre-COVID era. That's when he won his Tour de France. Yes, he's won a Giro since then, but it wasn't the most competitive Giro start list. And I mean, looking elsewhere, they have a lot of really good young riders. Damon Adensman, I don't think he's a Grand Tour winner. Yeah. But he's a good young rider. I've always liked Laurens de Plus. He's a good he's not a winner.
Like Ghana, the new Miguel Indurain.
Carlos
he's
Rodriguez,
been climbing well.
Maybe Rodriguez
is leaving as well. So
Rodriguez, that's a good shout.
Ineos, sort it out, man. What are you doing?